This is the Chuck Smith Show on Cape Atlantic Live, giving you the latest news on all things Mainland Regional Football. Now here's your host, Nick Kosko, and Mustangs head coach, Chuck Smith.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Chuck Smith Show right here on Cape Atlantic Live. I'm your host, Nick Kosko, and with me every week is Mainland football head coach Chuck Smith. Of course, the show today is brought to you by Ulmer's Appliance Service, and we would be remiss if we don't shout out the other sponsors of Mainland Regional Football. So the show is also brought to you by Charlie's Bar and Restaurant, The Docks Place, the Orio's Bar and Grill, Short Orthopedic, Golden Nugget, Atlantic City Casino, Hotel and Marina, Edmunds GovTech, and Darcy Johnson Day Law Firm. Coach, please you're with me once again as we look ahead to Atlantic City week. You guys are coming off a big win over Oakcrest, now 3-0 on the season. So before we get into the game coming up on Friday night on the road, first tell me what went right against Oakcrest. It seemed like everything went right after maybe a bit of a sluggish start on both sides, at least offensively.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Before I get started, I just want to say you and Matt do a great job producing our YouTube broadcast. Kids enjoy it. The families enjoy it. I get a lot of feedback from alumni. So kudos to you guys for doing such an excellent job.
We appreciate that as always, of course.
But, our defense is clicking right now. They've played excellent football through 3 weeks of the season so far, only giving up a total of 7 points. We came into the game against Oakcrest, knew they could throw the ball around, had some very good skilled receivers, quarterback could throw the ball a little bit, and defense did their job. I think they only gained 2 first downs on us and barely sniffed the red zone late in the, I believe it was the third quarter, and the team shut them down. But Oakcrest, not anything against Oakcrest, but they did a nice job on us, their defense. Did a nice job with their defensive line, the linebacker 44, who had a nice game again. The kid's every week he's a force. So we had to really, be aware of where he was and how he was reacting to certain plays. And we made the plays when we could. I mean, defense gave us excellent field position throughout the game. I think our first 6 possessions started around the 50-yard line or inside the 50, and we were just fortunate enough to get 3 scores in those first 6. Especially with the one at the end of the second quarter that we went 98 yards, but I was aided by a lot of penalties on that play. But it was a big score to get us ahead and really kind of, I don't want to say close the door on the game, but really when you went in 19-0, we knew we kind of had it right there.
Yeah, I was actually just about to ask you about that one too, because it was from the booth, I'm like, all right, they have to go 99, 98 yards, wherever the case may be on this drive. Maybe they can go into the half and at least run the clock out here. But I'm looking at that drive, and all of a sudden, Oakcrest is just basically shooting themselves in the foot, for lack of a better term, right there. And you just mentioned it right there? Did you know that the momentum basically went into your favor going into the halftime locker room? That I would say that was probably pretty deflating for the Falcons, knowing that they had multiple opportunities to get stops, but then I believe it was 3 or 4 defensive pass interference / holding penalties in their secondary.
Yeah, we had we got the ball. We were trying to get out and get some breathing room at first, and then it was Cohen Cook had a nice run up the middle, or Stephen Ordilli had a nice run up the middle, and we got a first down. Then we said, hey, there was less than 2 minutes left, and we figured, hey, let's take a shot, see what goes on. We got pass interference call, and then we threw another one, was incomplete, and we threw another pass interference, and all of a sudden the ball's up by the 50-yard line. We're like, okay, let's try to get a score on this. And then Johnny took off on a run down the side, Johnny Franchini, and we got a late hit and a personal foul on him, and that put the ball inside the 5, and then bang, And I thought right then and there, you could see just the momentum shift. And I know what it's like on the other side, but when you give up a late score in the half, it's kind of you walking into the locker room, kind of hanging your head a little bit, and right when we saw the momentum shift, and we knew we had to come out in that second half and really just put the nail in the coffin just to close it out.
What was the message to your team after that game, knowing that it was not the best game offensively to start out, but you basically picked up the momentum towards the end? And I'd be remiss as well if I didn't mention Rocco DiBiaso's highlight reel run that I was trying to get viral on Twitter. Of course, good old Kyle Brandt from Good Morning Football has those angry runs. That's exactly what I set up in the booth. So first on that was a heck of a play right there. But I feel like you guys carried momentum and turned up the juice a little bit in the second half before, of course, the game was out of reach, and that would almost serve you well going into this big game against Atlantic City.
Yeah, I can tell you, when we walked in at halftime, we weren't happy, especially from an offensive standpoint. We were having a lot of trouble up front blocking. Just weren't playing our game, our sound, crisp game that we're used to. And we had a tough week of practice, but everybody had a tough week of practice with the heat and all the regulations, and not being able to go outside or limited in practice and so forth. We had a 5 a.m. practice one day, but it wasn't our regular routine. And I really believe offensively, once you're in that routine, you like to stay in that routine. Like I was always a guy that hated the bye weeks in the middle of the season because I'm an offensive person. I like to just stay in those routines and keep everything clicking. I always felt like when we had that extra time off, it kind of got you out of sync. So, we kind of, I voiced my displeasure at halftime with the offense a little bit. And the guys picked up in that second half. We came out and scored 2 more times. And yeah, you're right. Rocco's run on the counter play. It was a tight seam. Oakcrest actually defensed it well. We just happened to hit that seam inside, and he just lowered his shoulder and ran through one of the defensive backs for Oakcrest on his way for like a 30-yard touchdown run. That's not the first time, and hopefully not the last time we see a run like that from Rocco, because he's a very physical and punishing ball carrier. And he has a burst of speed too. So it's not just the physicalness of it. He's got that little bit of quickness to him, which we saw in the first carry of the season when he won 80 some yards for a touchdown against Washington Township. But I thought the guys in the second half picked it up a little bit, but they knew at the end of the game when we were talking to the team, they knew we didn't play a great game offensively. We did what we needed to do to win the game, but we know we have to get a lot better, especially with the games we have coming up right now.
So you just mentioned that right there, 3-0 on the season. Of course, everyone can hang their head up high and say, yeah, this is very positive right now. We obviously have won 3 games in a row, but as you just mentioned, your team already knew they didn't play their best game against Oakcrest. And of course, a big challenge coming up with Atlantic City. So before we talk about the specifics with the Vikings coming up on the road, what was the mood of the team and how did you guys transition from game day on Friday over the weekend with recovery, early preparation for Atlantic City into practice on Monday, and obviously today as we're recording this on Tuesday? What's a little bit different now going into this week, knowing that the stakes are a little bit higher against a Group 5 school that is trying to compete, and get far in their own playoff group later this year?
Yeah, well, one of the things, and we reiterated it on Saturday morning, because Saturday morning we come in and watch film of the game the night before, and then give out our awards and all that stuff from the game. And then once that's over with, the game's over with in our minds, and we just move on. Everybody gets to recover, have a day and a half off, kind of get away from it for a little bit, and then come back on Monday ready to go for the next opponent. And one of the things we talked about on Saturday was one of our goals at the beginning of the season was to repeat as division champions. And Oakcrest was our first division game, and Atlantic City has already played a couple division games, and we know this is a big one on the path to a division title. So that was the emphasis there. Plus, we all know, both teams are going to probably be in the playoffs this year, and this is a huge PowerPoint game. Both teams should win a few more games. Group 5 school that we're playing, Group 4 for us. So it's a huge PowerPoint game too. So when we came in Monday and started watching film as a team of Atlantic City, we were really focused on the task ahead. And we knew we had to kick it up and address a couple issues that were apparent on Friday night with Oakcrest. And we dressed those things up on Monday's walkthrough practices on offense and defense and special teams. And we had a great day of practice today out there.
Yeah, just looking at the UPR rankings right now via Gridiron New Jersey, they actually were updated today, which is for the first time all season. They want to get a couple of games in, and right now, obviously, this is not just to blow smoke up your team's butts, but you guys are ranked right now number 1, just ahead of Shawnee in South Group 4, and Atlantic City is number 8 right now out of South Group 5, out of the 30 plus teams in each group in South Jersey. So, like you said, big game, big opportunity for both teams to acquire more power points and for it to mean a lot down the line this season when we look at the postseason bracket. So looking at Atlantic City and just watching them and just getting a feel for them from last week, they blew out Absegami, but Atlantic City, they have a lot of playmakers on the field. It starts with the quarterback, Joe Lyons. Just looking at the film early on in this week and your rough preparation early on in this week before Friday's game, what really stands out right now, particularly right now on the Atlantic City offense that you guys have to be really stout defensively with?
Speed, and more speed. I remember reading the preseason articles about them, Coach Wright, who's done a great job bringing that program back around. But he was talking about how all the team speed they have. And, that's one thing to read it, but when you're watching film and you see it, wow, man, they got some dudes. And, they have some guys back from last year, and they were a very good team last year, made it through, I think, the second round of the playoffs last year. And, the quarterback's back, and he was very good last year, and he's even better this year. He's very accurate as a passer. Of course, they have number 2 out there, one of the best receivers in the state of New Jersey, so we have our hands full with him. And they have some other guys too. So you can't just key in on one guy with them because they have several playmakers, like you said, on their offense. And they do a great job of pass protection. And like you said, they've been putting points up, a lot of points. So it's really a huge challenge for our defense also. Our defense, not to say they haven't played any great teams yet, but this is a big challenge for us because it's a different type of team also. One that really can throw the ball around, spread the field horizontally as well as vertically. And you think they're going to go deep and they can throw the short ball and make that short ball go from 5 yards to 60 yards in a heartbeat. So, we really got to really do a good job defensively of containing them and slowing them down to the best that we can. I know, hey, they're a good team. They're going to make plays. Things are going to happen. We just hope to limit those big plays.
Yeah, I'm looking at their scores right now, 28, 28, and 50, and all three of them are wins over Williamstown, Clearview, and Absegami in that order. So like you said, they do score a lot of points. A lot of guys can make plays happen with the ball in space. Now, even dating back to my playing days, we're talking about a decade plus ago at this point, Atlantic City was always known for its speed and a great ability to really spread the field with its passing game. Yep. Now, when you look at that from a defensive standpoint on your side of things, is that more of how do we defend that? Is it the pass rush that you really want to get after, or is it we need to be really stout in the secondary? I mean, of course, it's a combination of both, but what do you think is the key there? Is it more of your secondary playing tight, or is it the pass rush getting home to Joe Lyons?
I think it's what you said before. It's a combination of both and just knowing when to do each of those things or a combination of them, because you got to keep them off guard. I mean, if you give this kid time to throw, he's going to find guys, and those guys are good enough that they can get open if he has time and he finds them. You can see that on the film this year. But it's a combination of everything. We got to just keep it changing up, do our best to make sure we're in their faces. But at the same time, if you get too close to them, they're going to go right by you too. So you got to be smart with how you scheme these things.
No doubt. So flipping sides of the field right here. So you guys on offense, again, the first three games predicated heavy on the running attack. You guys go 3 to 5 guys deep, I would say. Cohen Cook, Rocco DiBiase, and of course, Stephen Ordillo, your top 3 guys out of the backfield. John Franchini has been improving steadily over the past couple of weeks, throwing the football in his sophomore season. I would imagine this is more of a balanced approach against Atlantic City. And it's one of those cases of, well, they could score in a hurry, so we better not let them have the football. Is that one of those cases here this Friday?
Yeah, it's big. I mean, obviously, we want to keep the football on our side a little bit to help our defense out. Ball control is going to be paramount. We were able to do that a little bit last year against them and keep them off because it was kind of like a lot of points were scored in last year's game between the two teams. We were just lucky enough to score a few more points than they did. But this is this year. And, we just have to do a good job of taking care of the football this week, doing a better job of blocking in all aspects, perimeter blocking especially, and being able to score because you got to score points. They're going to put points on the board. We know that, but we have to make sure we do our job on offense this week. Defense has carried us the first 3 weeks of the season. It's time for the offense to step up. And the guys know that there's a challenge ahead to our offense.
You mentioned scoring a lot of points in this football game dating back to last September 16th of the 2022 season. You guys beat Atlantic City at home 56-26. So obviously you guys got the memo and scored a lot of points against the Vikings. But again, new year, new team, an improved Atlantic City team that's already 3-0. You mentioned the division battle. So let me circle back to that actually about the United Division where you'll play other foes such as Bridgeton and of course your other rival EHT later in the season. But Atlantic City right now tied at the top of the division with you guys. How big is that division title for you guys just mentally? And is it, I would imagine it's a sense of pride, but is it more of a mental hurdle that you guys want to get over knowing that the playoffs are just around the corner if you win that division title once again this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a season goal for us to win that. And being that we won it last year, we want to repeat as that. That's one of our little check the box, things. And we know this game is a big game on the way to that. Not that it's anywhere near over because there's a couple more teams we have to play. They're scary opponents down the road, and who knows what happens. And for us to win it, we pretty much would have to go undefeated in our division. That takes us all the way to the last week of the season against EHT, your old school. And but it's a big one. It's a big one for us because it's another thing that the guys know when you win a division championship, that year goes on a banner forever. And every time you walk in that gym, whether it's this year or 10 years from now or 20 years from now when they have kids are attending Mainland, they can always look up at that banner and know they were part of that team. So it's a big sense of pride with that. We take a lot of pride into that. And we have that this year. We put banners in our end zone representing all of our championships that we've had over the years, whether it's division or sectional titles, because there's a pride, and that's what builds your program. And our alumni love it when they show up at the field and they can just point and say, hey, I was on that team, or I was on the 95 team, or the 08 team, or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So it's big for the kids, and they know that. But we don't want to make it too big, because there's a lot that after this game, there's still a lot to go. But it's a big game for us. It's a huge challenge this Friday night.
Right. No doubt that you guys have bigger aspirations here in 2023 after getting so far last season. Looking at the standings right there, Atlantic City and you guys both 3-0 overall. Atlantic City already they've played 3 division games. This will be number 4 for them already. So they're already trying to get ahead. They're 3-0 in the division. You guys are 1-0 in the division. Both you guys are 1-0 in the division, but they've played one extra conference game. And of course, EHT and Oakcrest and Absegami all 1-2 overall. Bridgeton 0-3 to look at the United division. I mean, one last question on the division right now, actually. Is that division more noteworthy for you guys just because those are all traditional Cape Atlantic teams despite the realignment to the West Jersey League?
Yeah, it is, absolutely. We were just talking about this today as a coaching staff. I mean, it's been kind of like a little talk we have probably on a weekly basis, because we know we're going into realignment this off season. And one of the talks is to try to keep divisions by geography. And we all like to keep those old Cape Atlantic League rivalries together. So it is nice, because that's how it was when all of us played. You had those games, even though you had it might go to Bridgeton or Cumberland or Vineland or Millville or whatever, but it was the Cape Atlantic League. And it's kind of neat to keep those ties together, even though it's not the Cape Atlantic League anymore. But all of us guys, we still think of it as a Cape Atlantic League type division. And so it is nice when you get to play those teams. And hopefully when they do realignment, they kind of keep it the same, according to the school's enrollment sizes and stuff, but they keep it geographically towards that point,
Absolutely. So one more for you, Coach. Head Coach Chuck Smith with me here on the Chuck Smith Show on Cape Atlantic Live each and every week, presented to you by Ulmer's Appliance Service. So, Coach, just last one here on Atlantic City before we sign off here. Just, the biggest keys. We went over specifics on offense and defense. I mean, heck, special teams will play a role too. I know kicker Nate Cashy wants his name recognized as well for his doing a stat-out job kicking the football. So, just the biggest keys to this game to ensure that you guys do stay undefeated, get to 4-0, and obviously earn one of the biggest wins here through the first half of the season.
I think 2 things. Well, on offense, it's containing their speed. Or defense, containing their speed. And on offense, it's taking care of the football and time of possession. That's going to be keys for us. I truly believe that. If we're able to get first downs and keep the football, keep it out of their hands, that'll be huge for us. And if we're able to contain their speed, that'll help us also. But we know it's a big job ahead, because they're a very good football team, and we got our hands full.
Arguably the game of the week in South Jersey. Mainland and Atlantic City both 3-0. Mainland heads to Atlantic City on Friday night, 6 o'clock kickoff right here on Cape Atlantic Live. Mustangs, Vikings. Hey, we love it for first place in the United Division as it stands right now. Old school Cape Atlantic League football. Coach, appreciate the time as always. Looking forward to seeing what you guys can do on the road on Friday, and we'll talk then and also talk next week.
Sounds great. Thanks, Nick.
Absolutely. The Chuck Smith Show right here on Cape Atlantic Live.